Hello and welcome back to WatsonRPGs. In today's video, we are going to rank my 30 RPG completions of 2023. We're going to go through in the order that I completed them. I have already done the first 10. I'm going to re-rank them for this video as, time's passed and whatnot. So we're going to start off with the first one that I completed, which was Scarlet Nexus. So Scarlet Nexus, the combat was pretty enjoyable, but the story was quite forgettable. It wasn't amazing. It's very middle of the road, so I'm going to put it in B rank. I probably would never go back to it. There's not much replay value beyond playing both characters, and the completion list was a pain. Having to give gifts to all of the characters to build up the relationships with them was a pain. So yeah, that is Scarlet Nexus. The next game was Ni no Kuni Remastered. It's going in the 80. So Ni no Kuni Remastered, the story was fantastic. It's so good. The story is just amazing. The artwork is all done by Studio Ghibli, so it looks fantastic. The gameplay itself is Pokemon-esque, except you don't really have control over what it is, the monsters that you are using in battle to fight for you, which was the main issue with the game. So basically, yeah, 80. Not quite S tier, it's very close. Stranger in Paradise DLC. Again, I'm going to put in the B tier. The last DLC for Stranger in Paradise wrapped up the entire storyline. It brought the Emperor from Final Fantasy II back. That's pretty much all I remember about it, to be honest. I did finish off the Rift DLC as well with Gilgamesh. And with that, the combat for Stranger of Paradise is very good. It's very much it's Dark Souls-esque, but it's not quite as difficult. Being an RPG, a JRPG, it was very much something that you could, if you got the right build, you could basically, it was very easy, which I looked up various builds and stuff, so yeah. But yeah, Stranger Paradise as a whole I enjoyed very much, so it can stay in the B tier. The next game I completed was Persona 3 Portable, which I'm also going to put in the B tier. I'm going to move it to the top there. So the reason Persona 3 Portable is in the B tier is because although the game is very good and the gameplay is, very much the beginning of the Persona series, it starts out with all the social links and all that sort of stuff. It changes because Persona 2 doesn't have all that, from what I'm told. So that's Persona 3 is the sort of making of the Persona series that we know it today. The story's good, however, nothing happens story-wise between one full moon to the next full moon, and because of that, it can't really go much higher than B tier. Next was Wolong. Where's Wolong? There it is. I did in the previous video put Wolong in S tier. I'm not going to in this one. I'm going to put it in A tier. I enjoyed Wolong. I am a big fan of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms era. I've read the books a couple of times. This was a Souls-like kind of... Souls-like was a genre that I didn't particularly have much interest in, but after playing Stranger of Paradise and Wolong, I will probably look to play some of the other games. But Wolong I very much enjoyed. I enjoyed the combat. I liked figuring out all the different intricacies about the combat. Lubu was incredibly difficult to fight. It took a while to grind that, which is probably, well, that is why I'm dropping it down. The next fight you have with him is like incredibly easy, but the first fight, oh boy. Justice League Cosmic Chaos by Outright Games. I'm going to put in the beta. Just because realistically, Justice League Cosmic Chaos is aimed at children, it's not aimed at adults. I enjoyed playing it. It's a dungeon crawler, it's top down, it's kind of Diablo-esque, but it's, you know, Justice League characters. So it's very it's fun because it's aimed at children rather than being aimed at adults, so it's pretty bare bones. But I had fun with it, so it goes in the B tier. Is it as good as the other three in that tier? Not really, but I have fun with it, and if I have fun with it, then it goes higher. Made to Anomalies is definitely going back in the D tier. So the reason why Made to Anomalies is going in the D tier is because whilst the story was okay, it's a time travel story. I enjoy time travel. The majority of the game, I remember not knowing what was going on. The combat in the combat areas is dull and boring. And just generally, like, the game's just missing something. And it's unfortunate because it could have been, you know, sort of very similar to the Persona games, which it tries to be. It's just missing something. The next game was Ni no Kuni 2. Oh, don't want to be pressing that button. Ni no Kuni 2. There it is. Thought I was going blind then. Also going in the A rank. So this one is the opposite of the first Ni no Kuni. Whilst the story isn't as strong in this one, and it's only Ghibli style artwork, it's not actually made by Studio Ghibli, but you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. The story's not as strong, so realistically you think, oh, it's going to be tier. However, the combat is much, much better in Ni no Kuni 2 than it is in the first one. I just enjoyed the combat a lot more than I did in the first one. The first one you don't really get much control over stuff, whereas the second one is more hack and slashy sort of Tales of series type combat. So it's a lot more nuanced, I want to say. Next was Ghostwire Tokyo. It's also going in the A tier. So Ghostwire Tokyo is a more first-person shooter style game. You could call it an action adventure game. For me, it had a level up system and a skill system. You could upgrade skills and stuff like that, so I'm saying it's an RPG. It's my tier list. I also did the DLC for this as well. The DLC was a roguelike dungeon thing. That was a pain to get the 100% on. But, I mean, I managed it eventually. Ghostwire Tokyo had a lot of collectibles, which was also a pain, but the story is fantastic. The whole roaming around an area of Tokyo, meeting all the different stuff from Japanese mythology, like Tengus and Kappas and all that sort of stuff, really interests me, so that can go in the A tier. Next we have Fuga 1, which can go in the B tier. The story's pretty good for this. It's kind of generic, sort of okay-ish kind of combat. It's just a tank, it rolls around. It's very simple. For the most part, I enjoyed playing out the story, which continues in Fuga 2, which can also go in B tier. Fuga 2 is more of the same. They've just built on it with extra abilities and stuff. There's like a good or bad system in the game. If you're good, you get certain rewards. If you're bad, you get certain rewards. It changes the endings, so you can get different endings. So yeah, Fuga 1 and Fuga 2 pretty much solid B tier. Chained Echoes. This obviously came out in 2002, but I only got around to playing it last year. Chained Echoes has a fantastic story. It has a great RPG system to it. Battles are really fun. There's various different side quests you can do for each area to build up points for a job board, which unlocks various skills as well. It's very well done. It's kind of a retro style RPG, and it's just fantastic. Highly recommend playing it. Next game is Final Fantasy IX, which is our first S tier. Obviously, I am a huge Final Fantasy fan, although there will be another game on the list that won't come quite as high. Final Fantasy IX I have obviously played before. It's not the first time I played it this year, but I did 100% the achievement list this year, which included doing the dreaded jump rope and getting the jump rope queen. Is it queen or king? Can't remember. Either way, did the jump rope challenge, did 1,000 jumps using the macro, because there was no way I was going to do that by hand. I did try multiple times, but didn't actually get to 100. So but yeah, Final Fantasy IX, can't fault it. It's one of the best stories ever written in a Final Fantasy game. It's my second favourite one, so it's definitely going in the S tier. And likewise is the next game, Persona 4 Golden. Oh my god, man, did I sleep on that game. Persona 4 is just fantastic. The story is absolutely amazing. The whole going into the TV, trying to save people from being murdered. The social aspect of the game is well built up compared to Persona 3's. There's just... And the story doesn't only play out either like once a month. It plays out over the entire month. It's absolutely amazing. Well worthy of the S tier. Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. This one is more of a... Where do I put it? I'm going to put it in beta. This one's more of a nostalgia game for me. I played it a lot growing up. I played it with a friend. I'd go around his house at the weekend and we'd play it to death. We figured out the... when we found out the cheat code for it to reset the levels, we set about trying to get our characters as powerful as possible. So we'd get to maximum level, we'd reset the levels, we'd level up again. And we'd do that over and over again over multiple weekends. And we did that for a good couple of months, to a point where it was like we'd be getting 99% extra experience points, strength stats through the roof. We'd had like so many all the best weapons, like best armor, this, that and the other. Just the game itself has obviously not aged well. It came out on the PS2 and to be honest it wasn't great either on the PS2. It's like a top down dungeon crawler Diablo-esque type thing, but it's based in the Baldur's Gate universe. Final Fantasy 16 controversially is going in the A tier, not the S tier. Now the reason for this, I do have a review on the channel as well. It was kind of a rant. I enjoyed Final Fantasy 16. However, there are a few issues that I had with it. So, we'll talk about the good stuff first. The story, really good. Clive, Jill, Cid, all the characters, all the main characters are really well written. The stakes are really high throughout the game. You've got all the various different econs. The game looks absolutely gorgeous. One of the best current gen games that I've played so far. It's the only game that I've played on my PS5, which will change soon. The problem is the side quests in the game are terrible. They're absolutely terrible. The majority of them are fetch quests. It's literally a go here, talk to this guy. Now go here and talk to this guy. Now go here and talk to this guy, and then you're done. Like, that's 90% of the side quests for the game. And when you think of older Final Fantasy games, you think of like the Golden Saucer for Final Fantasy 7, or Chocobo Hot and Cold for Final Fantasy 9, and like the treasure chests, or Triple Triad for Final Fantasy 8, getting all the cards. And it is stuff like that that make a good side quest, not the sort of MMO style ones that are very much in Final Fantasy 16. So that's my first gripe. The second one is, although the combat's really good, I have no problem whatsoever with it being a more action style RPG with a Devil May Cry-esque combat, which it is. I played Devil May Cry, I played Final Fantasy 16. There's several moves that Clive does that are picked straight from Dante. Like, it is pretty much the same combat. The problem I have with the combat is there is a lot of stuff that Final Fantasy 16 could have done that's just not there. None of the elements matter. None of them. There's no elemental weaknesses for any of the monsters. If you come up across a bomb, you can use fire magic on it. There's just no reason to have any of the elements in the game, which is a really weird choice. So it's like, elements don't matter. There's not really any status effects. And then the combat itself, although it's good, you kind of figure out a couple of moves and do them over and over and over again. And by the time you get to an end of like a 50-hour game, it's kind of like, this is getting tedious now. It's fine for a Devil May Cry that's like 15-20 hours at most. It's not for a 50-hour game like Final Fantasy 16. And lastly, my last gripe, and then I will move on. There is a particular scene where Jill stays behind to save Clive from Odin. And Clive gets knocked out, has no idea what's going on, and gets dragged off. So Jill stays behind. And when Clive comes to a bit later on, he has a chat with everybody in the room. Jill's obviously not there because she's been captured by Odin. And he doesn't mention her. Doesn't talk about her whatsoever. There's no mention of Jill. And then you go off and do a load of side quests and there's still no mention of Jill. And then all of a sudden we're saving Jill. And it's like, if he woke up from being knocked unconscious and he saw the love of his life wasn't there in the room with everybody else, he would have asked where she is. And he doesn't. And it's just such a bad story beat. It's so really bad. For a game that prides itself on building up these characters and working up to a point where it's like, oh, is Clive ever gonna tell Jill that he loves her and this, that and the other, and it's like, he doesn't even say where is she. And that really, really annoyed me after I saw that story beat. I was just like, why haven't you asked? Why? Anyway, moving on, because otherwise I will rant about that all day. Jay-Cocoon. I'm going to put it in C. So, Jay-Cocoon is a PS1 game. I played it through an emulator. Because it's just not available these days on any modern console. It's kind of a Pokemon-esque sort of game that came out right at the end of the PS1's life cycle. And it was a game that I always wanted to play. I played the demo a bunch. And then never saw it actually hit shelves, which was really disappointing because I probably would have bought the game there and then, and if I did a tier list at the time, and it would probably have gone higher. However, it's really not aged well. It's really, really not aged well. There's very little in the way of actually telling you what it is that you're doing next, other than go through this forest. And the combat's like, for now, it's very basic. For then, it would have also, it would have been very basic. And it's got tank controls, and I don't like tank controls. I've never liked tank controls. I hate tank controls. So yeah. I'm going to put Jay-Cocoon at C. But I am very glad that I played it this year, despite not feeling that it was great. I mean, it's average. It's average. Next was Sword and Fairy 7, which again is going in the C tier. The story was pretty good. It's a bit of Chinese mythology compared to the Japanese mythology that we got from Ghostwire Tokyo. It's just a bit basic. And there was quite a lot of translation errors in the game. The jumping mechanic they had in the game wasn't great. A lot of the time the character would just jump up rather than jumping forward, or would the forward would just be like slightly. So when you're trying to jump on ledges and stuff like that, it's kind of not great. I do apologise for the vibration. That is one of my guinea pigs having a drink. So yeah, Sword and Fairy 7 is... it was okay. It's probably about the best I can say about it. Yakuza 0! So this year I decided to try out the Yakuza series. You can probably see there are quite a few Yakuza games on the list to be tiered very soon. So we're going to start off with Yakuza 0. Yes, I have 100% completed it. Yes, I absolutely regret it. Well, I don't. I'm an achievement hunter. But Yakuza 0 was an interesting start to the franchise for me. It splits the story up between Kiryu and Majima. Obviously, this came out well after the rest of the games, and it's a prequel to 1, as you can tell by the 0. So there are various different story beats that kind of allude to what's going on in the later games that I wouldn't have known about at the time. I do now because I played most of the series now, but so story-wise, the Yakuza games are pretty basic. It's usually someone does stuff, Kiryu has to stop them. But it's basic. It works, but it's basic. But the combat is fairly decent. It's more of a brawler style. It's just with the Yakuza games, they're very much comfort games, I suppose. They're never gonna bother the S tier, and this is probably going to be the only one that's going to be A tier because it's the first one that I played. But yeah, they're very much like, okay. I know it won't be the only A tier. It won't be the only A tier. But the Yakuza games as well, it's very much the extras that go with it. So you got the funny side stories, the mini games, being able to play the old Sega games within the game. It's just like a day in a life sort of thing. If Kiryu Kazuma, like Zero itself had the like a property management game and the cowboy management game as well. Like, there's lots of other stuff that goes on other than just the main story. The main stories you can generally get through in like 15 to 20 hours at most. But when you go for the completion, that's when we start getting to 200 hours. And the Yakuza 0 completion is one of the most difficult ones that I've done for a game. And I'm very proud of my completion. So I'm going to keep that at A rank just for that. So the next game was Frame Dragon's Odyssey, which I'm going to put down here with D tier. It's a Kemco RPG. They're very basic. They're just the old school JRPGs. That Frame Dragon's Odyssey was a weird one, even for a Chemical RPG. It kind of like had tons of enemies on the screen all at once. I've not played that style of game before, but yeah. The stories are all pretty much the same as well. Like, main character goes to Earth for some reason or another. The harem of girls all fall in love with him. Like, it's just... which is the same as I can say for Antiquia Lost. Basically everything I've just said for Frame Dragon's Odyssey is the same for Antiquia Lost. They're just like JRPGs that you can play. They're cheap. That were on mobile. Quite a lot of them were on various different platforms before coming to Xbox. I have a habit of picking them up when they're on sale, so I've got loads of them to play at some point, and I'm slowly making through my way through them. Obviously they'll be on the channel when I do, but yeah. Next up is Sea of Stars, and Sea of Stars is my RPG of the year. It would have been my game of the year had Alan Wake 2 not come out this year, but Sea of Stars is just absolutely phenomenal. Highly recommend anyone that is an RPG fan to go and play it. There's sort of a time travel-esque story to the game. It's very much reminiscent of Chrono Trigger, but it's combat. I do wish there was kind of a few more abilities for the characters, because I was spamming the same sort of abilities over and over again. Sort of after an hour of playing the game, but it was the kind of spamming that was just like it's okay, it's fine. But yeah, the story's phenomenal. The graphically, it's absolutely gorgeous. Play it, just play it. You won't. If you like RPGs, you absolutely won't regret playing Sea of Stars. Next up was the Teal Mask, which I'm going to put in the C tier. Now, there's a couple of reasons why it's in the C tier. So, I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed Scarlet and Violet. I am aware that there's technical difficulties with the game. There's lots of stuff that's wrong with it. There's frame rate issues, all that sort of stuff, and I get that. But I enjoy playing Pokemon. It's my comfort game. I can play it for hours and hours and hours. I will have more Pokemon stuff on the channel in the next year as well. But the Teal Mask DLC is 5 hours at most to get through all the story stuff. There was nothing particularly difficult about it. So I finished it within like a day, and then got all the Pokedex like the day after, so then it was done. So it was like, okay, moving on, which we're going to. It's just it's good fun because it's Pokemon, but yeah. Starfield in the beta. So I do get the negativity around Starfield. There are a lot of planets that just don't have anything on them. It's kind of like the same buildings and stuff over and over again. Beyond the main story, it's just not as fleshed out as what Skyrim is or Oblivion, where pretty much every single dungeon that you went to in Oblivion and Skyrim were like, oh, the new dungeons, like different stuff happens in them. There's usually some sort of story connected to each place. There's a quest, like, whereas Starfield, because of the amount of like generic stuff on most of the planets, like 90% of them, it's just like, meh. It took forever to 100% this game, just because of the level 100 achievement, which was just to get to level 100. There were quick ways to do it, which were better to do on PC, but obviously I play on Xbox, so I didn't do those. I actually grinded levels to get to level 100. I went to a planet that was near the end near the end of the solar system, and just grinded levels, just killing stuff over and over and over and over again, and it took forever, and it was a pain. I did enjoy the story though. Again, the sort of time travel-esque parallel universe sort of thing that was going on, I love those sort of stories. I am unapologetically saying that I love those sorts of stories. So when I found out that New Game Plus was basically like, oh yeah, like, going into any parallel universe, off you go, like, everything's refreshed, but your character kind of remembers stuff, whereas everybody else won't, and there's like slight differences. That was really cool. I love that. And I did enjoy some of the side quests as well, some of the side stories for the factions. Not so much the corporate one. I forget what it was called now. But yeah, the other ones were great. So after Starfield is Like a Dragon Gaiden. The only thing I'm going to say for Like a Dragon Gaiden is emotional damage. Moving on. No, I'm not moving on. I need to explain that. Story-wise, finish the game, and you will figure out why I'm saying emotional damage for that, because wow. Next game I completed was Yakuza Kiwami, which is that one. You can go on the beta. As I said previously with Yakuza 0, they're all basically the same sort of stories-ish until you get to 3. So yeah, stuff happens, Kiryu has to stop it, basically. I finished the story for Kiwami like after Yakuza 0, so it was like months before, but I just slowly chipped away at doing the 100%, because again, it was really difficult, like Yakuza 0, and took ages. Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name was really easy to 100% compared with the rest of the Yakuza games. Really weird. So after Kiwami was Persona 5 Tactica, which is also going in the S tier. I absolutely adored this game. I cannot tell you how much I adored this game. The whole just being able to go back to the Phantom Thieves after playing Persona 5 Royal in 2022 when it finally released on Xbox, that it was much needed, and just the like giving it the tactical RPG sort of setting was a really fun idea as well. So it worked really, really, really well. Indigo Disc DLC is also going in the C tier. Same sort of issue that I had with Indigo Disc. Yes, I know that it has various different performance issues, but again, Pokemon is my comfort game, so it can stay in the C tier. Story-wise, it was a little bit better. The battles were actually more difficult, because everybody had like level 80 Pokemon. So they were a little bit harder. They were all like competitively built as well, and had items and all that sort of stuff. So it was just like, okay, they mean business this time. But yeah, couple of days and it was done, and the Pokédex was 100%ed. I am still playing it now. I'm shiny hunting, basically. So, yeah. Kiwami 2, same as Kiwami. I don't really have anything else to add with the Yakuza games now. The thing with Kiwami 2 that I disliked was they changed the combat system in it from Kiwami to Kiwami 2. Apparently there's something to do with the Dragon Engine or something like that. It wasn't great, but by the time I'd finished the game and I kind of figured out the easy way to cheese the game with the combat, yeah, it would. But in the Yakuza games, they were basically the same. I will talk about the Yakuza games in more length in a different video, but not this one. And lastly, my final RPG completion of the year was Super Mario RPG. I'm not sure where to put this one. I think realistically it needs to go in the A tier. I was kind of between the A and the S tier, but this was an RPG that I wanted to play for years. Same with Jake King. When I figured out that, when I learned there was an RPG for Mario, I was kind of like, oh. And then it was like, oh, it's made by Squaresoft. And it was like, oh, I kind of want to play that. And I just never got around to playing it. It was on my list of games to play for this year, so I was going to find an emulator somewhere and just like play the ROM. And then Nintendo announced the remake of it. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll buy the remake. So I got the remake for Christmas, played it over Christmas. Great comfort game. It's a very solid game. So that's why it's in the A tier. And that's my list. If you disagree with anything, tell me in the comments. Obviously there's some stuff in there that's changed from earlier in the year because my opinions of them have changed. I guess we see whether we beat 30 this year. At the moment I am very much finishing off my Yakuza series playthrough. I've got Lost Judgment and then Like a Dragon 7 to play. And as of this video coming out, Like a Dragon 8 is coming out in a few weeks, so who knows whether I'll be covering that or not. But yeah, if you agreed with my list, tell me in the comments below what was your favourite RPG of the year. And I will see you in the next video.